All right, so we're here at Patchwork Recording Studio. I'm here with Mr. and Mrs. Coleman. Welcome to Patchwork, moms. How you doing over there?
I'm doing really good.
Doing
I won't
good?
complain.
Won't complain. What about you,
No.
Pops?
I'm great, man.
You
I'm
look like
always
you look
together.
like you did this in a former life, man.
Yeah, I did it. I come up that way.
Came up. You told
I roll
Mel how
like
to
that.
do interviews.
Yeah, I roll like that.
Oh, okay.
That's why Mill can do them so well.
Oh, okay. So yeah. I mean, briefly. I mean, I'm glad you guys happened to be here in Atlanta, and we didn't have to do this over the phone. But like I was telling you guys, I just wanted to do some recordings with people who had a huge impact on my life. You know what I mean? And I talked to a couple of my coaches or whatever, and I was going to call you guys, but it's a blessing that you guys are here. So I just want to ask a few questions, get a few answers, and have a little conversation. So
Okay.
Before we get into meeting me and all this stuff, I do want to know your story. Like, Miles, where are you from?
I was born in Vicksburg, Mississippi,
Okay.
1946. I'll be 70 years old next month.
70 years old. Now, how long y'all been married?
We've been married 48 years.
48.
We've been together for 50, probably about 50,
I'm 51.
51,
52.
52 years. Yeah.
And then where you from, Pops?
I was born and raised in Albion, Michigan.
In Albion, Michigan. So how y'all,
Well, we came to Albion when I was 11.
or your family moved
My
to Albion?
family moved to Albion. It was 7 children and 3 adults in a car with all our belongings. So we came from Vicksburg to Albion.
Yeah, what made y'all choose Albion? Did y'all have family there, or?
Yeah, my grandfather, and he had moved there to go to work at the factory there, Hayes Albion, and my aunt had moved there. So, things were really picking up in Albion, so they told my dad to come up with us. He was making like $25 a week in Mississippi with 7 children, so that's how we ended up in Albion. Never been to school with, interracial school, so it was
You hadn't?
hadn't.
Okay.
I was in Mississippi where you had to get the bus, get on the back of the bus. We had to go in the back of the bus. You couldn't go through the front and walk to the back. This was in 1958, so
Really?
yeah.
So how old were you when you moved here? Moved to Michigan?
11.
11? Mm-hmm. Okay.
That was in 1958.
Yeah. So was the weather a shock to you?
The weather was a total shock. The weather was a shock. The whole atmosphere was a shock to me. When I remember the first day I went to school. Like I said, we couldn't even walk on the same side of the street with the white people. Mm-hmm. So I'm in this school with all these white people. What do I do? Do I touch them? Do I go on this side? So everything was a shock.
So was it I guess in the attitude of the people from down south to up north, was it different, or did they still treat black people kind of badly, or were they acceptance of that in the school that was segregated?
They accepted us on the outside, but internally they didn't. They treated us like, if he'll tell his story, but if you got good grades in school and you were black and you were in the class with white kids, they'd say you cheated.
Really?
Yeah. So, yeah.
So 11-year-old, so where were you in, that was elementary or junior high school?
I was in 7th grade.
7th grade?
Yeah. I started school when I was 4.
Yeah?
Yeah, so, I was in 7th grade when we got here.
Okay. So then how did y'all meet? Or, y'all met in
school.
In high school?
Well, when I got here, we've been together, actually friends, since I got here. I met him, and his friend really was the one that liked me. So, the friend started talking to me, but I let him tell the story how we got
You
together.
gonna let him tell his lies?
Yeah. So, but anyway, it was sort of like they protected me. I was always small, you know. So I was a small little girl, you know, but I was always strong too. I had a strong will because I was the oldest. So, and where I came from, we stayed in the bottom in the hood. So you had to be strong, you know, a little black girl, and I had to help raise the other kids. So I was always a strong-willed
Did you have a
person.
heavy accent or anything, or I mean, did they make fun of you for that, or it wasn't no big deal?
Some of them did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them said, what did you say? I don't know what you know. So, yeah, some of them made fun of me.
All right. So then, the 7th grade in Albion, is it just one school, or is it multiple schools, or you guys were all in? Because whenever I go down there, it seemed like the whole town populated by y'all family.
Yeah.
But, I mean, is it a small town, or is it?
To both her family and my family were the two largest black families in Albion at that time. And see, I was born and raised in Albion, and Albion at that time was a manufacturing center. A lot after the war, they had converted it from making bombs and radar screens and stuff like that to manufacturing parts for the automobile industry. And the largest the largest foundry in Albion was at that time was called the Malibu, and it was later purchased by two other companies before they dissolved it. But that was the larger one, and then there was other support businesses, Decker Nut, Corning Glass, the Gale was there was probably three or four foundries in Albion alone.
What's a foundry?
They manufacture parts for
Factories.
like transmission casings
Okay.
or bomb shells.
Okay.
You know.
Now, is that where your parents worked at the factories, or?
Well, yeah, that's what brought the black population into Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because a lot they were shorter of help, so they would go down into the South, Alabama, Mississippi. Well, usually Alabama and Georgia, and in Mississippi because their relatives would go and tell their other relatives, "Come on, you can go up here and make some money."
So then, so you coming up and her coming up in the South, y'all experiences were kind of different. Because I remember years later, you told me you ain't even really like to go down South or whatever. So
no, I didn't. I was, I hadn't. The only time when I got drafted into the Army, I was 21. That was the only time that I had ever been South. I was at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And then I came back at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, after I served my tour duty overseas in Korea. And that was the only two times I'd ever been South.
So when you came in the service, you can feel the difference in the attitudes?
We knew because it was during the Civil Rights Movement, and we knew, there was everything was publicized over the TV, so we knew what had happened, like to Emmett Till. We knew about Martin Luther King and all of the activities that was going on there. And I had formed a certain attitude in my mind about the South. I didn't have no desire to go down there because I made up my mind that I wasn't going to take no abuse.
Right.
And I said I wouldn't last long down there because my attitude wasn't conducive for that environment at that time.
Right.
And so I just never really had any I had formed a picture in my mind of what it was like. And I said, I don't even want to go into that environment because I can't survive like that. I can't allow myself to be belittled. Right. From what I see, when they were, you've seen the scenes during the Civil Rights Movement when they were sicking dogs on people and stuff. I was sitting there, if they ever did that to me, I'm going to have a gun or a knife. I'm going to kill that dog. Right. See, that was my way of thinking. And they would have killed me.
Right. So I didn't even know you was in the service, man.
Oh, yeah. I was
in the Army?
I was in the Army, yeah. In fact, the year that Michigan State went to the Rose Bowl, Duffy was the coach. That year, I was at Michigan State.
Yeah.
I had transferred from junior college to Michigan State.
I didn't even know you went to Michigan State.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then
So what? You went into service right out of high school? You got
no,
drafted?
no. I was an old man when I went into the service because they were drafting 17 and 18-year-olds when I went in. I got in deferments. I got several deferments, but I had a little hot rod. You know, I had a Chevy Super Sport, 3-speed on the floor. You know, 327 engine. I was chasing the girls, you know.
Chasing the girls.
I
And
was,
He had them.
I blew the engine in my car, and I had worked. By the last semester of junior college, I didn't go to school. I worked so I could get money to transfer to Michigan State.
yeah. So where were you going to junior college at?
At Flint.
In Flint?
Yeah, it was called Flint Junior College at that time. But
So now back up and now in high school, did you play any sports or do anything? Or
Oh, yeah.
I was playing football, then I was playing track. I was captain of the track team. I didn't in my senior year in track. I didn't lose a race,
oh yeah,
but in a race that I ran in, but I didn't always have the best time. I ended up 7th in the state. It was called the 880, which is equivalent to the half mile.
okay.
We still got pictures of him.
See, it's weird because my parents grew up in Louisiana, and when I asked my dad, did he play any sports, he was like, no, we was working in the fields.
Yeah.
So he was like, man, we would miss weeks and weeks of school because they had to work in the field. So just to hear your story was like, nah, I did all of this stuff. It's interesting.
But see, my attitude wasn't right in sports, see, because our teachers and Glory just kind of deferred to me about how they discriminated against us in subtle ways. In other words, I can remember this particular incident. I was studying. I decided I had this math class, and I decided I was going to study.
He was brilliant in math.
I was going to study for the test because I could do it without really studying and just get an average grade. So I said, well, I'm going to study. So I studied for the test and got the highest grade in the class. And the teacher came up and tried to make a point of, saying that, well, the only way you could have done that is you had to cheat. So we sitting in the class, and so we're going through some theorems and stuff and geometry, trigonometry. And she said, well, Miller, since you did so well on the test, you're going to come up to the board and chalkboard and go over this here, show us how to go through this theorem. And I had an attitude. I said, no, I don't have to prove nothing to nobody. And so I said, I stopped studying. I didn't even try to get a grade, which was wrong.
Right.
Because it only hurt me. It
Right.
didn't hurt that teacher had her degree. And so I just come out an average student. I had a C average.
Now, back then, did y'all have black teachers? Were they teachers?
Very few. There was none. There was very
I
few.
didn't have one.
Not a one?
Yeah.
Not up here. Not in Michigan. I didn't have
The only
teacher.
black teacher that I can remember was a teacher named Jim Crow, and he was
Jim Crow.
yeah.
I'm glad I didn't have him.
Jim Crow. It was either Crow or Crow.
It's Crow.
Crow,
It wasn't
okay.
Crow. It was Crow.
Okay.
I remember
Yeah.
him. I didn't have him.
Yeah. But he was I don't know if he was a phys ed teacher or something, but he wasn't in any of the, he wasn't an English or math teacher or anything like that. But that's the only one that I can remember in high school. Now, what happened is after the civil rights movement had begun and they started desegregating schools and everything, the public schools went south to the black schools and brought in several black teachers. And that would have been in the 60s and late 60s, early 70s, something like
Now,
that.
both y'all, you went to college too? You did the nursing program or
Yeah, I went to barber school first.
barber school?
Yeah, my aunt, because my parents couldn't afford to send me to college, so my aunt sent me to barber school. So then I got married and, worked. And I worked at the hospital, and they gave me a scholarship, and I went to
So what
nurse.
was you doing with the barber thing? You worked in that field for a while or no?
Yeah, I worked in there for quite a few years. Yeah, I got
Doing
my
hair?
license. Yeah, cutting hair, barber shop.
Oh,
And what you see on barber shop on TV is real in the movies.
yeah. Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah.
And then so you was working at the barber shop, and so you got like a certificate. Then you went to you say you got a job at a hospital, and they pay for you to
No,
go.
I worked at the barber shop. You have to get a license, you know. I went there, and then you have to go to state boards and get your license. And then you have to work under someone, a barber back then in the 60s. You have to work for someone for 2 years before you actually get a license to do by yourself. So yeah, I did that, and we made good money. That's when they had we called them the processors, and all that. We worked. I worked while he went to school.
Okay.
He went back
So
to college.
y'all was together in high school?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've been together since high school. But I worked while he went back to college.
Okay.
I cut hair while he went back to college, and we stayed in the projects. Our rent was $40 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now did y'all parents? I mean, who instilled it into you to want to go to school? I mean, your parents did they graduate from high school and stuff?
No,
or?
my mother went to the 9th grade.
Okay.
It was I've spoken in my various positions. I've spoken to other people in classes and stuff. They call me in to speak, and I always give credit to the saying that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I always wanted to help I didn't want to ever disappoint my mother, and because she raised me and my brother, it was just the two of us. And anyway, I first experienced a desire to go to college to graduate from high school first. There was a guy named George Gamble, and I saw him with his robe on. He was graduating, and I can remember thinking to myself, man, I'd make my mother real proud if I could graduate. So I set that as a goal to graduate from high school. And then after graduation from high school, I didn't ever think I'd go to college. But by the grace of God, I did get a job because they were coming out of a recession in 1962. And prior to get the job, I had joined the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And the day the recruiter came to get me, I had just gotten a call. Remember the plan I told you about, the foundry?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I put an application in there, and that they called me. This was like I think it was like June or July, I think it was, and they called me to work. So when the recruiter came, I told him I had a chance to go to college, and I wanted to try. I was using that as an excuse at the time, but it was kind of prophetic. And so he said, well, this is what I think about college. And he tore my papers up in front of me. And so I said, thank you. But I went into the foundry, and all of the old guys, and I give a lot of credit to the old guys, because they came in there and they saw something in me that I didn't see. And they kept saying, man, you don't stay in this place.
Right.
You're smart enough to go to college. So that's kind of the implant that was in my mind. Plus, a couple of my classmates had gone and gotten enrolled in college, and a couple of ladies I was running with, and so I got in the foundry, and right away I learned that wasn't for me, man. That work was a killer, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I ended up applying for college, junior college, and got accepted.
So your grades was good enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could do, if I wanted to do, I could have done A work.
Right.
It was just, I was.
So when you said you went to college in Flint, were you just driving up and back and forth to campus?
No, I had a cousin up there. And I stayed with him. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the semester I was to graduate, I got an opportunity to do an electrical apprenticeship at the Buick motor plant when the plants were going big up in Flint. So I worked the equivalent of a semester in the plants as an electrical apprentice and saved my money and bought a car. And that was a little hot rod that I had. And so I was I transferred to Michigan State, and that was 65, 66.
So you graduated from Michigan State?
I went there. I had a year and a half at Flint Junior College and a year at Michigan State. The school year 65, 66. And at that time they were drafted in where I was registered in the draft. They didn't have they had run out of the lower age men for the draft. So they were going by age groups, the 18, 19, 20, 21. I think I was it 20 when I went in 1920. 20, yeah, 1966.
So they drafted you. You had to leave school.
Yeah, well, that's where the car come in. See, I had a little girlfriend over in Kalamazoo at Western Michigan University, and I was going over there to see her, and blew the engine in my car.
Yeah.
And so the money I had to go to finish school, go another semester at Michigan State, I spent it on my car, and they didn't give me a deferment for the next semester
Because you wasn't in school.
because I wasn't in school.
That was a bad choice, man.
Yeah, well,
Trying to get to the
you know
girl.
the choices you make, you got to live with them, man.
Yeah.
So, and that's when I ended up got into the Army. Yeah.
Now, did you ever get a degree? Did you ever finish college?
Yeah. When Gloria and I married, our first child we had out of wedlock, Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
You have to tell that.
well, that's the truth. He's family. He
I'm just
We'll
teasing.
edit that out.
yeah.
You can leave it in.
Okay.
Everybody know it.
Anyway,
Now, how old were y'all when y'all had Sydney? I mean,
He was 21.
she
I
was
was
18.
18.
okay.
Yeah. She was out of school. We both were out of high school.
I got out of
We
school
had
when I was
college.
17.
Okay.
And so I ended up getting drafted. Where was I at? Ended up getting drafted, and so when I came while I was in the Army in '66, was it? Is that when you got pregnant with
Gina
Gina?
got pregnant. Gina was in 68. Gina was born.
Okay, yeah, in '60 that's when we got married. But anyway, because she got pregnant again, and I felt an obligation to take care of my family. Of course, I love her. Gloria has always been the type of person that in our relationship that I can judge other people by how they react to her,
Right.
because she's got a certain magnetism about her with other people. So, but we got married in '68, and when I come back from Korea, where I served a year's tour of duty in the Army, and so that's when we got
Now,
married.
when y'all got married, where were y'all staying?
Oh, let's see. We first stayed with her mother,
We stayed with my mom.
Yeah.
Then we moved in with his mom.
and then
His
we
mom had an apartment up over her house.
had a 2-story house, and we stayed in the
Yeah.
upper story. Yeah,
Yeah.
And then-
And all this was in Albion.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did the school, then you went away in the service, and then after high school, you was just working.
Yeah.
So what was the reaction when you told your mama you was having a baby?
You don't want to know.
Yeah, them old folks, man, in them days, that was a disgrace. You know
I had to get up in front of the church. And seriously, I had to get up in front of the church and beg the church pardon for my sins. And who does that anymore?
Right.
But anyway, I had to do all that, and it was like a disgrace. I disgraced the family, but she finally accepted it, and she stood by me, and believe it or not, she liked Miller,
Yeah.
Yeah. She didn't like him for a while. She called him a hoodlum because he was in he was in the purple gang.
And the what?
He was in the gang.
A purple gang.
No, they called it
They
the
called
purple
it purple
gang,
gang.
but we
he was
we weren't
bad.
no gang.
He fought all the time. He fought. They fought.
No, here's what happened, Kurt.
He don't have that much time to go through all that now.
Okay, in high school, blacks were not accepted into organizations like the varsity club for outstanding athletes and stuff like that. So through another real good athlete at Albion named George Burton. We formed a club called the Epics. And the objective of the Epics was to promote the good athletes and help them and encourage them to go to college. So we set tours of our own. We made arrangements to go to college, go and visit colleges and try to get scholarships. Because none of the coaches or any of them, they didn't think we were qualified to
Right.
go to do anything like that. They would say, you'll never be you'll never be more than just a factory worker or something like that.
Right.
That's the kind of attitude the teachers used on us. It's kind of a mind game they played with us.
Right. Now, both y'all, how were y'all parents? Your mom and dad, what type of people were they?
My mom and dad, I don't know, I want to cry. My mother was a person that I've been looking for somebody like her since she passed. She was only 65 when she passed, but she was a person that was, a lot of people say I'm like her, but I'm not like her because she and my dad would get out of their bed to give a stranger. They were the kindest people that you'd ever want to see. They would, you think Millie and I take people in? They would take people in that, I mean, bag ladies, people that somebody would say would go off to the Sam's house, and they would take those people in. Not only did they take them in, they would literally, they would sleep downstairs and put them in their bedrooms. They were very kind people, and they were very encouraging. My dad worked hard. He never missed a day of work. He worked at the factory that he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The Malibu.
The Malibu. And he never missed a day of work. He would iron his clothes to go into the factory. And my mom was a very devout Christian. She'd read the Bible to us, When we were little, we'd all sit around her, and she'd read the Bible. We'd have to go to church. We'd have to go to Sunday school. And even when I was grown and married and working, if I wasn't in church on Sunday, I'd work midnights, and she'd call me, "What day is it?" And I said, "I'm half." So I said, "Huh? What day?" I said, "Son, well, get to church." I'm 35, 40 years old. I got to get them to go to church because my mom told me to do it. But
But
in
the
answer
type-
to your
type
question, they
of
were
person,
very...
I want to share something with him about your mother. She was, when I was in college, the only thing my mother could do was send me about $3 a week. That's the room had. But her mother, she would send me money while I was in school. And during the civil rights movement, Albion was called Little Detroit. And when they started having the violence and everything, nobody could control the kids in the community. They created a job for her mother in the schools to maintain calmness and peace in that school.
Yeah.
Her name was Bessie. Yeah, but she could calm. I mean, the city of Albion, they, like he said, they would call on her. I don't know what it was about her, but she could calm the biggest of riots.
So she was well respected.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, she was.
Even the
very-
guys, how the young guys had the cars flying up and down the streets. The word was out. You don't come up Dalrymple Street driving no car fast like
Right.
that. Because
Miss-
Miss Bessie, she stand out there and stop you and discipline you right there in front of everybody. People
my
just
grandmother's
respected
name.
her.
She's like your grand. Yeah.
Bessie.
Yeah.
That was my grandma's name. So then on your parents, if you had to say what, like a main characteristic or a trait, what would you say you took from your dad, and what would you say you took from your mom? And then on that too, that's just as them as a person. And then what would you say as far as bringing up your kids that you took from your mom and your dad?
From my dad was a very kind person also, but he loved to joke. He loved to, bring humor. And I think I took that from my dad, I try not to, I don't like to get around sadness, and I try to bring joy wherever I can. And I think I know I took that from my dad. He was very kind-hearted, And my mom, like I said, she was very giving. She would give her last. And I took that from her because Miller to tell you, I'll give you.
I mean, it makes sense. You got an honest. I always call you and tell you need to quit.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah.
So that's where that came from.
Yeah, it came from her. And what I got, my mother had a saying. My mother would say, I don't care what you do, but think for yourself. And I've lived by that all my life. You can't tell me to do anything that I don't want to do, and he'll tell you that. If it's not what I want to do, I'm not going to do it. I don't care what you say. She said, my brother took a bike, and she went down south to a funeral. When she came back home, my aunt had already whipped him back then,
He
and
stole a bike.
that's what I mean.
He stole.
Well, he stole a bike. But he took the bike back to the boy after he got a whooping. But anyway, my mother said these words, because she had 6 boys. So she had to discipline them in a way. And she said, why did you take the bike, Lewis? Because somebody told me to do it.
Right.
She whipped him, not because she took the bike, but because he did what somebody else told him to do that was wrong. So Millie and I both do this. We've instilled in our kids to be a leader, not a follower. To think for yourself and to always treat people like you want to be treated. It disturbed me to see even my kids when they, like the little ones, they laugh at somebody that, and I think Sydney is a reason for that. I think I know God put Sydney in our life for a reason, because we can look at Sydney, and when he was coming up, if kids used to laugh at him, with Gina especially, she liked to fight, and my nieces and stuff, they would jump on people because they teased Sydney. Mm-hmm. So I tell kids, do not tease kids or people at all that can't help themselves.
Right.
Treat everybody with respect. Treat people like you want to be treated. And that's how I live. I treat people like I want to be treated, and I don't mistreat anybody. Not if I do, I don't know I did it, and right. I want somebody to come tell me I didn't like what you said so I can apologize, you know. But yeah, I tried. I not that they all did what we told them to do, but that's what and most of all, out of all that, we taught them to always pray. Mm-hmm. If you got a problem, I remember before Mill used to have a football game in high school. We wouldn't let him out that door before we had prayer. And then we carried it on to the grandkids. We wouldn't let them go till we had prayer. So prayer is the focus, have always been. And even now, when we go on a trip, when we got ready to travel down here, Mill came by. I said, Mill, you pray for us. And we all held hand and had prayer, And when Mill and them go on, he always come remind me finna get on the plane, and I'll have prayer, I'll text a prayer to him. That's the focus, because, everybody don't believe in that, but right. I believe, that everything happens for a reason, Yeah. It might not be what we want to happen at that particular time, but along the way, we'll find out why it happened. We'll know.
Your moms and pops, man.
Well, I was raised by my mother. I had very little interaction with my father, but my mother instilled a lot of strength in me. I never got caught up. Very seldom did I get caught up with my peers in anything. I can remember, and I was always aware of my. I was always aware of my mother in anything I did, and I never really wanted to hurt her. That's the last thing I wanted to do. And she always told me, don't run in a crowd. If there's something going on, you don't run to the fight. You run away from the fight.
So would your mom sit down and tell you stuff like that, or
Oh,
just
yeah.
she would literally like sit you down and just give you
My
lessons like
mother
that, or
was-
that stuff you
My
picked
mother
up
was
from her?
4'11".
That was her mom. That was,
And my mother was 4'11". And I got a whooping up till I was about 16.
Yeah.
Because my mother didn't spare the rod. But it was more out of respect to her, for her. But I was just, a lot of my motivation and my drive and my desire. Her sisters told her that you're not gonna be able to raise them boys. And she wanted to prove that she gonna raise some sons to be men.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was always made aware of that, But my mother I really appreciate her now more so than then, because I can see what she was trying to do and what she was trying to instill in us, And a lot of I never smoked, drank, or and that kind of crazy stuff, but because my mother was a borderline alcoholic, but the way she raised me is to learn from other people's mistakes, so you don't make that same mistake, And so I really appreciate the strength that she instilled in me and the motivation to be successful, to be a father.
What he's not saying, and I don't, they can edit it if you don't want them to say it, but his dad didn't own up to him until he got in high school or graduated from college.
When I graduated from college.
His dad said that he was, and he looks exactly like his dad did, but his dad didn't have anything to do with him.
But so then, even with that said, like you said, your mom taught you how to learn and not do what other people do. So by the way your dad handled that situation, did that affect the way you interacted with your kids and brought them up? And were you conscious of, like, I kind of want to go the other way and I'm definitely not going to be like that? Or
Yeah. This I don't share this with a lot of people, but for a long time I couldn't understand why my dad didn't want to have anything to do with me. Later on, I learned that was just the way he is, because he had another family, and he didn't have nothing to do with them either.
Right.
Okay, so that was the nature of my father, and it bothered me a long time. And one day I was walking down the street, and it was on my mind, and a voice came to me that calmed me down. And the Spirit spoke to me and said, I'm your father. You don't have to worry about anything. And from that point on, it calmed me down to the point where at another point in my life, it said, the Spirit spoke to me and said, your father is setting an example of how not to be a man. You just do the opposite. And so I made it a mission in my life to be the man, the father that I wanted to be to my kids. And so that was my motivation and my driving point. I looked at my father, and nobody ever, out of all of my sporting events and everything, no one ever from my immediate family came to see me. Mm-hmm. So I made it a point that I'd always be available and support my kids, no matter what they were doing, as long as it's positive, and try to keep them going in the right direction. So that was the positive, because I always believe that if in every evil or every negative, there's a positive. So I always try to look to the positive side. So the positive side for me in accepting my dad the way he was that he taught me how to be a man, because all I had to do was be the opposite of what he was to me as a father. Mm-hmm. So that never really bothered me anything. And like I said, I always wanted to please my mother. I wanted to make her happy and proud. So when I set up on a mission to go to college, that's when I said I'm going to go to college. It took me 10 years to get my degree,
Right.
but I determined that I was going to get my degree.
Okay. So now y'all in Albion with 2 kids.
Right.
Was y'all had Mill? Was he in Albion too, or
Mill was born the year I graduated from college
okay?
in 1972.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in Alabama. We were living in the projects when I got pregnant with Mill, and I was very sick with Mill. We didn't think that Mill was going to be born, actually, because I ended up in the hospital. And the doctor told me, really, because I was so sick, I probably shouldn't have any more kids. But, yeah, he was born in Albion. And when he was born, and this is the truth, he didn't like me for some reason.
Who? Mill? Wow.
He would cry when I held him. So his dad would have to come home from work and keep him at night. And I don't know what it was. And when I tell Mill this, he doesn't believe it, but he'll tell you it's the truth. He would have to lay him up on his chest and but anyway.
So let me ask you this. So then, when you guys left Albion, where did you guys go?
Lansing.
Lansing.
Yeah, when I graduated from college, I had a degree in management, business, and economics, and I got a job as an accountant with Ernst and Ernst, and that was in Lansing.
Okay. So then y'all got your own place in Lansing.
Yeah, we bought a home. She was working. We saved her check, and we only lived off of my check.
They could buy a house.
And so we
moved out.
bought a house when I got out of college and went to Lansing.
Mill was like 4 months old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, how long were you guys there?
We were there 3.5 years, and the mayor of Albion called me and wanted to know if I'd be willing to accept a position as the clerk treasurer, income tax administrator, chief financial officer of the city of Albion.
And your mom had gotten sick, so you wanted.
So y'all moved back to Albion?
Yeah. We moved back to Albion and bought a house in Albion, and where I stayed there, we stayed there 3 years. Well, we stayed in 2 houses because we sold one and went to another. But anyway, I stayed there in Albion in that capacity for 3.5 years. About every 3 to 3.5 years, I was changing careers.
Right.
And I left there and went to Washtenaw County as a controller of Washtenaw County. But that got
Ann Arbor.
in Washtenaw, in Ann Arbor, yeah,
In Ann Arbor.
yeah, and I stayed there for about 6 months. And it got to be too political for me, and so I left there and came back to Albion to be the business manager for the first black automobile new car dealer in Albion, and I stayed there for a couple of years.
He was moving
Because I
was
wanted
dragging them kids around.
Oh yeah. Mill got to the point where he wanted, Dad, and when we gonna move again? So,
We stopped unpacking.
yeah,
I'm serious.
we still got boxes packed up. But I stayed there. I was supposed to get a new car franchise from General Motors, so the economy went so bad. Prime was 22%, believe that or not.
Yeah.
Prime interest rate went to 22%. But anyway, I stayed there, and I saw that I started a used car dealership, and I was hoping that the industry would turn around, but anyway, it didn't. And so I took a position with the school district as their business manager. And then I got
a lot of these jobs, was there a lot of black people working at these places, or
No.
no?
I've always been only black in upper management or upper management. Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah. And so I then ended up, I got an opportunity. I was wanting to own my own business, so I got an opportunity to become a State Farm insurance agent. and there I kind of settled in for 21 years.
So was you cool with all these decisions or no?
She didn't. They kept saying, "Man, what do you want with you know, blacks weren't holding those positions, and they thought that man, this was the world, a black man in this position." But I was just motivated to try and keep
Even though I
advancing
wasn't
myself.
cool, I stuck by him. Well,
She stuck in there.
I tried to argue with him a couple of times, and I saw he really wanted to do this, and I stuck by him.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Yeah. All right. So then, okay, so we're gonna jump a little bit, y'all. How do y'all end up in Farmington?
Farmington Hill.
Okay. At when I took the position with State Farm as an insurance agent, I commuted from Albion to Ypsilanti for about 4 years, and then the company came to me and said, "We want you to come into management." So I went into management as a district manager, and I had to move to the district that I was going to manage, and it was in Waterford Township, which was in the area up there where in Detroit, in Farmington Hills. So we moved to Farmington Hills because of that. And then after I'd been in management for about 4 years, I didn't like it. I wanted to be more independent and have my own agency. So they gave me another agency.
Now, so where with you guys is where would you say that, I guess, the strong sense of family? I mean, I ain't never seen anything like that. Like I always say, I guess ours was different because most of my family may have been back in Louisiana, and some, went to LA for jobs too. But I mean, I'll be deep. I mean, it was like, man.
Well, I had to get that to Glory's family.
Yeah.
My family is not like that.
Yeah.
And it took a while for me to make the transition to that. But that's I'm just like a brother,
right,
in that family.
Right.
And I knew I helped raise all of her kids. See, I had to, how you had to play the game. You know how to play the game. So if I'm gonna court Glory,
right,
well, her mama said you're gonna babysit.
Right.
So I had to come with Glory to babysit.
Now you got how many sisters?
Two sisters, 6 brothers.
6 brothers and 2 sisters. Lord.
And I'm the oldest.
Okay.
I'm the oldest, and the youngest is 53.
All right. So look, so this is like, like when I came out there to Michigan State, I think they had told me, I mean, I guess obviously I was the only person from California. And so, they were worried about who I was going to stay with. And the coach was like, they was like, we think you should stay with Mill Coleman. I'm like, I don't really know him or nothing because I'm not from out here. So I look him up and I'm reading all this stuff. And we start to talk. And I just always say that was almost the biggest blessing. You know what I mean? Just, I was like you. I was chasing the girls. Neil was studying. I done picked up so many habits from him that were good. You know what I mean? And it was just impressive, even for us. It's been about 20 years or something. And we were probably like one of the only 2 people that literally moved in during freshman camp and then lived together for 4 years. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And just made it work like that. Or it just, I always was curious, like, where did, like, I just never seen anything like that. Like the family, like, I mean, for us, like I was talking to my high school coach and like he was saying, I asked him, did he have any interaction with parents and stuff? And he was like, nah, no parents came to practice or anything. And, they would come, my parents came to the game, but, they were working and couldn't do nothing. So, it just, we talked about this at the dinner. It just was very admirable to see y'all 2 around and then you to be, it's like it's weird to see a black dude off in the middle of the daytime. Like, man, the dude got a job, the mama don't work, and he always up here. How he in practice every day?
well, there again, Curtis, that goes, and I said it before, things happen for a reason. You didn't know it when you graduated from high school. When you were in high school, you were destined to meet us. And like when that coach said, Mill Coleman, those coaches knew us. They knew of us and our family. And you being so far away, and I guarantee you that was one of the reasons.
That was the reason.
Yeah. And they knew because when we walked in that room, and I tell this story to everybody, when we walked in that room and saw you sitting there, I said, oh my God. I'd never seen someone look so lonely and so like, what do I do now? You know.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to take it back a little bit further than that.
Okay.
Okay. We were driving on campus by the football building, and you were walking by the building when we were driving.
I just remember. Okay.
And Glory said, man, he looks so lonely. And so she said, stop. And we stopped and talked to you. And you, I don't know where the pillow came in, but you were looking for a pillow.
Yeah.
I don't remember that part.
You were looking for a pillow. And that's when I remember the first time I saw Curtis, because we both saw you at the same time, and said, man, he looks lonely. And when knowing Glory's character, Glory was willing to take anybody in.
I mean, it's funny because, like, the crazy part about it is when you think about it is that, you know, a lot of people on the team didn't have both of their parents and didn't grow up like that. And I grew up like that, so I was lonely because I was used to always being around my mom and dad and whatever. It was like such a shift that people in Michigan would always say, I never even knew you had a family. I didn't even know you had a mom or dad because they never saw them. And I was be like, no, my parents been married for X amount of years. And then even going home with some of the people was different because I remember I was like, man, the only two people houses that remind me of my mom's them was Corey's and y'all's, because the other people had kind of like shotgun style houses. I was like, I just wasn't like, it wasn't comfortable or whatever. And I would have left. I tried to leave a bunch of times. So it was funny, like what you said a little while ago, is that you almost judge people off of Glory because she picks up on stuff like that. And yeah, I was trying to leave that place. I mean, I was the worst. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was the worst. And then they kept telling me that we're gonna put you with this guy because of this, and because of this, and all this stuff. And then they were just speaking about Mill. And then you guys kind of came with the package, was just a blessing. And then, like I tell people, I'm literally to the point where I've never in my life, even with Ava, I don't really play around with them titles and say, this is your brother, this is what. And out of respect for my mom and dad, I had never, and that's why I always called y'all moms and pops. Mm-hmm. I call them mom and daddy. So I would never call nobody dad or mom or whatever, but y'all had did, you know, so much that's why I was like, this is moms and this is pops or whatever. And I just be wondering like why y'all was like that. And it wasn't just with me. Y'all was like, it was like y'all was teaching all of us lessons for like when we had kids. We probably a lot of us came up there. You got to figure I came on a recruiting trip by myself, 18 years old, flew across the country. Probably a lot of the other kids did. So we didn't know any better about the parents being involved. But I look at all the guys now, like I said at the dinner, that's what they do. They do the stuff that y'all do. They make sure, hey, do your teammate got a place to go? Do they need something to eat? Do they need a ride? Do they need a blanket? Do they need this and all this stuff or whatever? And I just always be wondering, like, I mean, we talked about it, but we record this now. Why? Like, I mean, why was y'all like that? Like, I mean, were you like, I'm going to instill something in these, because you was tough on us. Yeah. I remember that time you bought me a mattress, man. I was so mad at you. You bought me a $1,500 mattress and made me pay you back. I wanted a $300 mattress. And you was like, nah, you going to get a real bed so you don't be buying one every semester. You gone on invested in a bed. You took my house and you was like, you going to pay me back every semester $300. I was like, man, he made me. I brought that bed to Atlanta, man. I had that bed for about 7 years.
Well, in answer I don't know. He can answer for himself, but as far as I'm concerned, that's who I am. That's what I do. When I saw you, see, I can, and Millet know I can read a person real. I can read you real well. And I said, this kid needs a mama.
I mean, y'all talked about that. You looked at me and y'all literally said he looked
Yeah.
lonely.
Yeah.
Well, we've been together so
We've
long.
been together. We knew each other.
We just
and I
knew
said,
it.
Miller, we gotta take this kid. You know, we can't let him go. And we didn't write no papers down. We didn't sign nothing. We didn't call your mom them to get permission. But in our hearts, we signed those papers that you are ours. Okay, he's Mill's brother now. He's our son now. Because we knew, and when I talked to your mom, she was so grateful. And we didn't treat you any different than we treated Mill.
Yeah, I noticed
Whether
that.
you knew it or
No,
not.
I did.
If I gave you $1, if I gave Mill $1, I'd give you $1. You know, and I did that because I literally fell in love with you. You know, as he did. We talked about it. Curtis, you were different than a lot of the kids. And I still got the letter, and sometimes I read that letter and tears come in my eyes. Out of all those young men that I helped, a lot of them come back and thank me. But that letter you wrote me, it was so touching. You probably don't remember what you put
I
on
don't.
the letter. I'm gonna give you a copy of that letter. You thanked me for what we did for you, how we treated you, how, you know, if we ever needed anything, you know, you were gonna go and and you did it. You were gonna make it big, and if we ever needed you for anything like you needed us, you'd be there. I mean, but that wasn't the part. The part that really got me was to say that you appreciated what we did. You know, because you could do stuff for people nowadays and they figure you have to do it. And once you're gone, you know. They don't look back at you. They don't, but you never forget us. You know, you never forget. You know, we might not hear from you for months, but we know you're thinking about us, you know? If we need anything, you know,
Well,
we know we
don't
can call you.
We
Go
didn't
ahead,
do
Mel.
anything to get credit.
Right.
Okay, we do it because we did it out of our hearts.
I think we got to hurry up and stop.
And we did it because we did it from our hearts. And we didn't expect any kind of reward back from them. God has blessed us, man. That's when I can't even get started. That's a whole new area there. But God has blessed us, and because we do it from our hearts. But you're the only one that has really demonstrated your appreciation for us. And we've been together so long. You asked, do we discuss things? We just know each other. We read each other. Because she say something like, well, we ought to take him in. And I might object, but I said, well, no, I'm going to go along with her, you know, mentally, because we know each other so well. I can be sitting at home and she'll cross my mind, and the next minute the phone will ring. Or I can be thinking about something. It might be something that I want to eat. Just the other day, she said, what you want to eat? I said, I don't know, you know. And I said, well, why don't you fix some Salisbury steak? And that's just what she was thinking about cooking at the time, because we're just that tight with each other, you know. We just been around each other so long.
Yeah, and then the other thing that was cool is that, like, the kids accepted it. Like, it could have been, you know, a kid could have been jealous or whatever, but
you know, our kids never showed any jealousy.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. It was like that, and then even from that, just the extended family, to do all that other stuff.
Bonnie them, they all accept you as their nephew.
But Curtis, know. I've never run into any family like that, any family like hers, and it's made me more of a family person.
Right.
See, that's what I feel, because I could be cold-blooded.
Right.
if it wasn't for her,
Right.
you know. And she's such a people person. We went on. Y'all went to Michigan State went to a bowl game. I can't remember which one it was, and we were in the airport, and Glory. We had landed, and Glory had gone somewhere. She was, I don't know if she went to register us or something like that, and I was standing in line. And I said, man, these people sure are stuck up. I mean, they nobody talk to me or anything. Well, I have a way of of affecting people when they see me for some reason. Then I don't come across as being warm and easy to walk up to. And so a few minutes later, I saw this crowd over there, and half the people in the terminal was around this one person. I said, I wonder what's going on. I went over and it was around Glory. Yeah. She had magnetized. She must have some kind of magnetic power. I mean, all these people around Glory just loving her and everything. I said, well, maybe it was me. Maybe they didn't say nothing to me.
Now on y'all for just from going from your kids, right, and then you guys got grandkids and stuff like that. Are there things that you guys are consciously passing along or trying to make sure that they have? And then are you seeing a difference in the generation of the kids of, can you talk to them the same way? Do they listen? Are they kind of tuning it out a little bit more or what?
Yeah, they.
I mean, do your techniques that you used to use back in the day, will they work on these kids?
Oh, yeah.
They work on them?
Oh, yeah. Kids want to be disciplined. Kids, I don't know if you remember it or not, but I was a stickler for men wearing a hat in the house. Mm-hmm. And all of Mill's friends and everything, they come to the house, man, you got to take your hat off. Well, that's the same way I was, the same way I am with all of our grandkids now. They'll tell them in a minute, hey, man, you can't wear your house hat. I mean, it's the Coleman's house, But we both, Glory hit on this before, we do respect kids the way we want to be respected. We don't try to dominate them, but we let them know that we are adults. We're senior to them, and you don't treat seniors like you do kids. Okay, so I think we impart that through our personalities and our interaction with them.
Yeah, and go ahead.
No, but we don't. I don't sit down and deliberately try to. I'm. You got to accept me for who I am. Right. Okay, and I'll tell them in a minute if they have an objection. I'm old school, right, and I'm not changing. Old school was good enough for me. It's good enough for you. Man.
See, he's a little harder on them than I am, and they know this, because they respect me, and I'm a little lighter on them, but you're hearing to, here comes Coleman. You better sit down. Here comes Coleman.
Curtis, and I know you can relate to this. She would sneak some money off to the football players. All the time. She's sliding money on the table at them, When they come to me, they got to pay it back. They know that, you know what I mean? Look, man, I tell them in a minute, say, I don't make a bad hustler out you. If I give it to you, you're not gonna develop any, you're not gonna man up to nothing. I say, but if you learn how to honor your word and pay it back, you appreciate it more.
All right. So the last question is just on your three kids. Like I said, it doesn't have to be anything that they did, but I guess a characteristic or something about them that y'all I'm not even going to say proud of, but you're most grateful for. And if you can go in order, Sydney, Gina, then Mill.
Well, Sydney, I'm most grateful to God because Sydney is the one that has taught my other children how to love. He taught us how to love because of his, I won't say disability, but of the way he is. He makes everybody smile. Everybody loves Sydney. In the community, anywhere he go, people know Sydney that we don't know. And I'm so proud of him because of who he is and the way he makes people come together, like I say, in love, and makes my other kids and grandkids come together and to want to help him. And by them learning to help him, that taught them to help others. And with Gina, Gina, she is I don't know how to say it, but she is the one that, to be a girl, she's a tough girl. She, how do I put it? She's taken so much in her life. She's gone through so much. She has 2 kids, and they have no father figure. So she's had to, with the help of us, raise these kids by herself. If it wasn't for us, and and I'm proud of Gina because she's been a good mother to those kids. She would give her last to see that those kids get what they need. Rain loves dance, and she goes without to make sure Rain gets, her dancing classes. And of course we help her, but I'm proud to see her. She's not into getting her hair done, her nails done, but she sees that G gets what he needs. So I'm proud of her being a good parent. And Mill, what can I say? He he's he's the baby of the family, but yet he seems the oldest of the family. He's more of the leader when it comes to leading the other 2. Even though he's the youngest, he looks out for those 2. If Gina needs anything, if Sydney needs anything, he's there for them. But he's like his dad in the sense he's not just going to go and say, here, here, here. But he stands back and he knows. And he's like me. He's given Gina when I didn't know, to help her. So I'm proud of him for being who he is as far as being a good brother. And most of all, he's a good husband to his wife. He's really a good husband, and he's a heck of a dad. They all are good parents. And to wrap it up, all my kids are very respectful of us. You don't see many kids at their age that when we're around them, and we knew they take social drinks, but they don't just get drunk and stuff. I've never heard one of my kids curse in front of us, which I know they do, because I'm only human, and of course I've heard about it, but I'm very respectful because they are respectful of us. So I'm proud of them for all of that. And most of all, for them still praying and believing in God. So that's it.
I have to echo a lot of the things she said. Sydney helped me to appreciate everybody and not look at them for their disability. We've never been ashamed of Sydney. We take Sydney wherever we go. A lot of people can't deal with, quote, a handicapped person. I don't like to consider him a handicap because Sydney is well above a lot of what is called normal people in his way, certain areas, But as a human being, he's one of the most loving persons you ever want to see. And everybody adopts him as a son wherever he goes. Farmington Hills, Albion. We don't ever have to worry about sitting in those areas. So, yeah, he's helped me to appreciate other people, and especially those with quote disabilities. Okay, Gina, she's strong. She that girl's been through so much, and I really. I'm not a real emotional person at time. I'm emotional in certain ways, but Gina is very sensitive, and she reads things, and sometimes I don't like to get too emotional with her because she gets off track. I think but she's a loving person. She's a very devout mother, and I think Rain is going to really appreciate her in her later years because she will give her last dollar for Rain and G. She go home. She'll give her last dollar. Mill was an easy person, easy kid. It was no challenge to raise because Mill had his own mind. The things that I tried to instill in all of them, it just seemed like it all just came together in Mill, and he is like and I'll wrap it up because I know you got to get out of here. When he was playing junior football, when he was playing flag football, he arranged all that on his own. I had no idea about flag football, but he had a mindset, and when he come to me with something, he had laid it all out in his mind. He put it together. But I think his younger son, Mill, I think he beats him because he knows how to put a package together. He knows how to sell his ideas. But I'm proud of all of them, really. And they all respect us, like Glory said. I know I'm from the streets. I know they swear out there with the boys. I know they done hit a drink or two or something like that. But they know how to control it, and then they respect me. Never no swearing. If every now and then Sydney's the only one that I've really seen that drinks some beer.
Yeah.
But he's very uncomfortable. If he see me coming, he'll hide it.
Right.
He won't claim it. I know that. So, but they're all good kids, and they respect us, and we respect them.
And to wrap this up, for our other child that we adopted by the name of Curtis, and I'm very serious. I respect you, and I'm so proud of you. And I say it all the time. Thank you for just
being you.
Just thank you for being you, and just for remembering us every now and then. And we never ask for anything from you but your love. And we thank you for sharing your family with us. We love your wife and your little baby. We don't get together like we should, but you guys are always here. And to tell everybody, you're a good person, you're a kind person, and we just love you, and we're proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A true friend.
A true friend
is someone that's always there for you when you need them.
Yeah.
They might not. I'm not one to always, try to demonstrate it, but I can tell you this. We're always there for you.
All the time.
Whether you hear from us or not. But if push come to shove and you need us, we're there.
Yeah.
We're there.
Okay, I'm done.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.